Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. Second episode of the day. If you're watching on YouTube, you probably have noticed I have not uploaded anything today, and that's because there's a problem with YouTube. A lot of content creators are having problems getting their videos uploaded and processed, but when that kicks back on, you guys are going to have 2 episodes ready and 2 body cam videos. The day of the welfare checks for JJ Vallow at the townhomes, you see Lori in all of her shameful glory, lying to police very easily. We're going to get started and finish up Heather Daybell's testimony. But first, if you're watching on YouTube, you know the drill. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video, share it with your friends, and you can ring my bell if you want notifications when I post new content. Music fact of the day. The song Last Kiss by Pearl Jam was a cover, and it only cost them $1,000 to record. And it's also their highest charting hit to date, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. There were so many objections flying around today, y'all. If I had $1 for everyone, I could go on vacation. We picked back up with Heather Daybell. She said she had a strained relationship with the Daybell family, which has only gotten worse since they found the kids' bodies on Chad's property. She has not spoken to Chad's kids since then. A few weeks before Tammy passed away, Heather knew Tammy drove along to Utah. That stood out because she knew Tammy didn't like to travel alone. They go to a sidebar, and the photos that Pryor previously objected to in the last episode that was sustained and they didn't come in, all of a sudden he has no objection and they come in. So they show the photos. One is a staircase from the top of the cozy cone, that addition they built on. She explains there's a hallway at the bottom of the stairs that leads into the kitchen, and then the bedrooms are on the other end of the house. Another photo are the musical instruments inside the cozy cone. We talked about that the first episode. She remembers the musical instruments from when she was in that addition. She knows retired Detective David Hope from the Rexburg PD. It's her daughter's father-in-law. He did work for Rexburg PD when the investigation was ongoing. She said they rarely interacted. They were together at a baby's blessing. And also there was a group camping trip several summers ago, and she hasn't discussed the case with him. She sent letters to the 10 Relief Society presidents of the stake. She saw them periodically throughout the year. She sent the letter when the kids were missing and Lori and Chad were in Hawaii. So she estimates maybe around January of 2020. She also said that she can't remember who told her, but someone said there were 2 missing kids and it was about to hit the news. This person wanted her and her husband, Matt, to be aware that this was coming out. She talks about sending the letter because Chad was a relative of hers and she wanted to remind people to stick to the gospel, and it appeared Chad had gotten off track. She tried to talk to people about it, but she wasn't believed. People said Chad was doing what he should be doing, and she was just trying to make things hard for him. She had some Relief Society presidents concerned that some of their ward members were involved in these meetings with Chad. She wanted them to be aware of what Chad was believing, and she said as things progressed and Chad got involved in preparing a people, she took it upon herself to listen to some of the things the people Chad associated with had experienced. They talked about their visions and experiences beyond the veil, things that church people normally don't experience. In the beginning, she would talk to the other women that she would meet due to her calling. She talked to their stake president a couple of times, and she was trying to talk to other family members to just stop what was happening. But it came at a cost to her. People thought she was just trying to cause problems for Chad, and it damaged her relationship with the rest of the Daybell family, and that's why she doesn't talk to his children. On Cross, Pryor asks about her speaking with Detective Mattingly on February 11th of 2020. Her husband, Matt, was there as well. Heather was worried that Chad was using the Salem church, doing his writing inside. Pryor says that Chad was there every single day, and Heather says she doesn't know about every day, but he was there a lot. He asked if she saw a truck there. Heather said she thought Tammy drove the truck. And Pryor points out that even with Chad's visions and his unconventional beliefs, he and Tammy still kept their LDS membership. And Heather says yes. Pryor says that Chad was active in all the meetings in his ward until 2019, and he was an undersecretary. Heather agrees. They go on to talk about the hierarchy of the church. I'm not even going to try to explain it, y'all. I was confused. Pryor asks if the bishop is a position of prominence, and Heather says he's the priesthood leader of the ward. Pryor says through 2019, Chad was a member of the LDS church and the executive secretary for the bishop, in spite of the fact he had been authoring books for 10 years. Heather says up to that point, the books weren't an issue. Then Pryor says so in 2014, the books became an issue. She said no. In 2014, Julie Rowe's book that Chad was publishing became an issue. He asked if she remembers what she said in the letter, and she said she hasn't read it in a long time, so he gives her a copy. He asked her to read the first sentence from the letter, and he said it was dated August 12th, 2020. Heather points out that's not the date she sent it. The heading was changed by the person who forwarded that email. The first sentence says she is forwarding an email the stake president asked her to forward. He sent a talk to her and asked her to forward it to the Relief Society presidents. Heather wrote her own email with her own thoughts referencing the situation and also with the talk the state president had sent to her. The first sentence in the paragraph, Pryor says, you say you have firsthand knowledge of the details of what's been going on for a while. Heather says, yes, that was Chad and his beliefs. Pryor says, you previously mentioned you have, he calls a brother-in-law, Dave Hope. Heather says, that's my daughter's father-in-law. Pryor says, you're aware he's a detective and he's involved in this case. I can't imagine your firsthand knowledge came from Dave Hope. She said he wasn't, and that's not what she was referencing. She was referencing the beliefs Chad had because he told them to her, not about the investigation. Pryor says, you referenced your personal opinion of Chad in the letter. She said, yeah, that's fair. She knows the person who forwarded it to others. Pryor says, then she got the email from you, and then she sent it out to people in her ward. Heather said she sent the letter to 10 women, and it was up to them if they wanted to share it with their sisters or not. Pryor says it was your decision to share it with the Relief Society wards, and then you let them decide if they sent it to other women. And Heather says yes. Pryor's trying to say a name, and he is stumbling and stammering. Heather Daybell very calmly says, Bishop Rick. Pryor says you decided to inject your opinion about Chad Daybell. Heather says, yes, this was my community. At this point, Judge Boyce tells Pryor to stop cutting Heather off and tells Pryor he does it with every single response. Pryor asked if she wasn't happy with the Daybells moving to Rexburg, and she said no, just Chad. He asked if Tammy had left Chad at home, would she have had trouble with it? She said if they were further away and if it really was for a new start, but she knew what Chad was coming with, which was his purpose. Pryor says that would have reflected poorly on you because of your last name. And Heather says there's only 2 Daybell families in Rexburg. Pryor says you complained Chad used the church for his study habits. And Heather snaps back and says, it wasn't his study habits. He was writing, and that's his profession. Church buildings are not to be used for professional purposes. That was her issue. Pryor says you enforce the rules since you're the high society president. And Heather says it's not high society. It's the Relief Society. And it wasn't something she was abusing her position for. It was her observations. Chad was using the church for his writing purposes. And Pryor says some of the family refers to you as the pot stirrer. She said, yeah. He asked if it's Chad's kids, and she said no, it was her father-in-law, Chad's dad. When Matt and Heather would approach her father-in-law with Chad's teachings, he would tell Heather she was a pot stirrer. Pryor asked, what does that mean to you? And she said it's negative. It's saying that you should not involve yourself with something that you don't need to worry about. He asked if it's also someone who is sticking their nose in someone else's business. Heather says, I would say it's my business. That's my community, my neighborhood. Pryor says, I'm talking in general. Is it someone who sticks their nose in someone else's business? And Heather says, sure. That was it for Pryor. On redirect, prosecution says you were asked about Chad's role as executive secretary in the ward. Is it fair to say someone carrying on an adulterous affair, there's an objection in a sidebar. When they get back, the prosecutor asks, is it consistent for an executive secretary to be engaging in an affair? Heather says not with that calling. They ask about her finding out about JJ and Tally's bodies being found on Chad's property. He asked if Chad was serving as the secretary at that time, and she doesn't know because he did move to Hawaii, but She knows he was when he married Lori. Prosecutor asked if Julie Rowe has been excommunicated. There was an objection that was sustained. They go on to say, you were concerned about Chad's relationship with her. Why? She was worried about what was in Julie's books, and also the personal relationship between Chad and Julie concerned her. They seemed really close. At one point, he brought Julie to Heather and Matt's house, and she was very uncomfortable. Chad brought Julie to show her Matt and Heather's land, which backs up to a river, and they walked the property. Chad and Julie were communicating very closely, and Heather said Tammy and the kids were following behind, and it made her feel bad for Tammy just seeing how close they seemed. She said, by the way, that was the only time she ever saw Julie Rowe in person. They bring up her being asked about her personal opinion. What was your opinion at the time you wrote the letter? Heather says Chad was very misguided and got involved in relationships with other people that weren't appropriate, and it affected other people. She's asked who she meant by these relationships, and Heather says Julie Rowe, and then later when she heard about Lori. The prosecutor asked if, as a stake leader, you see something that's done against the church, you would alert other leaders. And she said, yeah. She said it wasn't so much the calling she had, but she knew Chad, she knew his car, and she knew what Chad was doing inside that church building. They bring up her being the pot stirrer. When did you confront your father-in-law? Heather says on several occasions they voiced their concerns to him, and he would just say, don't worry about it. She talks about one time they were in a circle in her driveway and they were talking about it, and Chad's dad told her, don't be a pot stirrer. She thinks this was around 2015 or 16. She was hoping if Chad's father said something to him and showed his concern that his teachings were getting off track with traditional LDS beliefs, he would maybe listen to his dad. Her father-in-law didn't call Heather a pot stirrer to her face again, but he did say something like that to her husband, Matt, at a later time. Heather thinks when she wrote the letter, this was after the kids were found. She said her concerns were obvious. There were dead children found in Chad's backyard. Tammy's death was a concern, and Chad's involvement in those deaths. That was the end of her testimony. Pryor said he sent her a subpoena, and she was kind enough to give him contact information, but he won't be calling her in the future, and releases her from her subpoena. She did not take anything on the chin with Pryor. She clapped back with facts, and I think he knew not to poke the bear too much. Last witness of the day, Detective Stubbs, now retired from the Rexburg PD. He was over the digital forensics and had experience with Cellbrite. Hear about that pretty much every case we cover now. He first got involved November 1st of 2019 when Arizona investigators were working the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. Arizona investigators got in touch with Idaho authorities to see if they could help locate the Jeep Alex used in the attempt on Brandon. Just a reminder, that Jeep was Tylee's. Charles co-signed with her, but Tylee was making those payments. Detective Stubbs and other officers began surveillance at the townhomes on Pioneer Road. They saw Chad and Lori leave the townhomes. They got into a Subaru, which had Arizona license plates. They went to Idaho Falls to a credit union and then a Hobby Lobby. They took photos of them walking into the store, and they show those to the jury. He says that Chad and Lori were holding hands, laughing, talking, smiling, and Lori put her head on his shoulder as they walked. Once they were inside the store, the detectives left. They move on to November 26th, the day of the welfare check that was called in by Kay Woodcock. The audio on this is good, so I'm going to play this video now.
Hi, you Lori. Lori, I'm Lieutenant Ball, Police Department. How are you? You got a minute? You alone, or you got help? Or?
My brother's here.
Okay. Detective Stubbs. Hello.
See you.
So, we're here.
Wow, this is a big mess. I just talked to the guy on the phone.
And what did he ask you?
He was just saying that he wanted to do a well check on JJ.
So, JJ would be where?
He's in Arizona.
Who's he with in Arizona?
He's with one of my friends in Arizona.
Oh.
Hi.
Oh, hey. You got a notepad?
No? Oh, you want?
No. Come here. Mind if he comes in.
Oh,
So,
sorry.
who's the friend he's with?
My friend Melanie. Her son has autism. Her name's Melanie Good. I gave him all the information on the phone.
Okay, so he can call.
Yeah.
Perfect. This part.
Yeah. What is all this?
We're a little concerned
Why?
because, well, the officers who were here earlier
Yeah.
were checking, and they got a bad vibe that like something was going on here because nobody knew anything about a child. They weren't talking.
It's because a
what's
lot of
going on?
stuff has gone on. If you want to know, it's a lot of stuff. So
Well, that's why we're concerned, because it just was kind of weird.
it is very weird. I've had to move around a lot. One of my brothers is trying to kill me. Not the brother that lives here, obviously. He's kind of my protector. My other brother that was in with my husband, who was trying to kill me for my $2 million life insurance policy.
No.
So a lot of stuff has gone on in this last year. It's been a horrible year for us. I've had to move around. And so I was going to move back to Arizona, put my son back in the school there, because I tried to put him in school here, public school at Kennedy.
Okay.
He went for 2 months. We tried it, but he had such a hard time. Now, the person who called is my sister-in-law, but she's his natural grandmother. He's adopted by us. Okay, so her son, who is a drug addict, had a baby with a girl who's a drug addict, and they took him from, CPS took him.
Okay.
Gave him to the grandmother. She came by him, and then she wanted us to adopt him, which we did. And we loved him.
By
and
us.
my husband and I, who died earlier this year.
Okay.
He passed away. Since he passed away, she's been trying to fight me for him and being really horrible to me and that kind of stuff. She's kind of the paternal friend.
Okay, thank
Does
you.
that make sense?
That's what I meant. The paternal grandmother.
He has autism and ADHD. He doesn't really talk to people. Like he's very special needs. So I had him in a special needs school there. She was trying to. So what happened was, my husband, who we were married for 15 years and had raised all these 5 kids together, switched his life insurance policy to her, right? To his sister,
Okay.
who got $1 million when he died, and we got nothing. For me to raise JJ, and all the kids got nothing, and everybody got nothing. She got $1 million. So I knew she was going to try to sue me for him, or
JJ?
yeah, because she now has this $1 million, so she can hire people to help him, and I have nothing.
But you have
nothing,
legal
but
custody.
he's my son. I adopted him when he
Right.
was 2 years. We had him from the time he was 8 months old till 2 years old. So she does nothing and wants to cause me trouble. So I don't tell people the truth about where we are and what we're doing because of those reasons. So I look like a suspect, but I am a good person. Raised all of my kids. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do in life, but everyone is causing me trouble right now. So
We don't want to cause a lot of trouble. How long have you been here?
we've only been here since September.
Okay.
We moved up here in September. My daughter's going to BYUI.
Your daughter goes to BYU?
Yeah.
Does she live here?
So it's been a nightmare, but I'm going to go back to Arizona so I can put him back in the special needs school. He couldn't do the school here. It was too hard for him. He would scream and cry, take him to school. The principal would have to come out, try to drag him out of the car. Like, it just was too hard. But I just don't tell people where I am. I don't tell her where I am ever. And she doesn't have any legal rights to anything. Like, she's been horrible to me since my husband died.
My understanding, she never called you to try to get the child, hey, I'm interested in the child back, but
I know, but she sends me these emails with like the date and like she's putting up court stuff, like she's documenting. I haven't heard from him in all this time, and so I've told her that he's fine. But
See, and we hadn't heard any of that as far as.
I'm just saying she's doing this as part of that. Is my understanding.
And our only concern in this whole thing
Is that
is,
he's fine.
the child.
I got it.
And so that's where we're at on the. And then
So
we were just a little weirded out when, and I understand now that we've heard your side of the story.
It's awful. I feel like I'm being tracked all the time. I'm like, why are police coming to my car? What did I do?
They said they were out visiting 2 guys, and I'm assuming one's your brother.
Yeah.
Who was the other one? The other guy they were visiting with. There were 2.
Visiting.
Well, we had 2 detectives over here trying to.
Looking for you a little while ago.
Oh, because I was at the store.
And they ran into. Well, probably one of your brothers.
My brother and his friend, probably.
Oh,
They've
who's
been
that?
moving. Chad?
Chad from around here? What's his last name? Yeah, okay. All right.
So it's just a mess. Like, just constantly causing me trouble.
Chad the Daybell?
He's an author.
Doesn't he live like out in the? Isn't that the Chatty Bell? Yeah, his wife passed away recently. Is that him?
I don't know,
But it is Chatty. D-A-Y-B. Yeah.
but it sounds familiar as an
I
author.
think I know one of his. He's got a couple of daughters. Is that
He has lots of kids.
okay. Hope it's safe. All right. Well, you need anything else? Sorry to bother you.
Thank you.
We're
We
done.
don't mean to be a
I'm
problem.
sorry that people are constantly knocking on my door. Oh my God, looking for me, and I just don't want to be found. So
Have you had problems? Because I think we only had.
well, the reason I'm moving is because the brother that was going to kill me, that we found emails and texts with my husband at the time, keeps showing up here. So he found out where I was, and he was knocking on my door.
No, this was your brother?
One of my brothers.
He showed up here and was knocking on your door.
He lives in Kansas.
And you said something about you were getting threatening emails?
Well, no, just after my husband passed, I found emails and texts between them that they were planning all this stuff to get rid of me.
Do we need to worry about him coming over?
Well, that's when I'm moving back. I'm moving, and I'm not going to be in a place. I'm going to live with my friend, Melanie. Don't tell anybody her name, Gib, because I don't want anything in my name. I put the apartment in my name, but I've been staying over here with my brother because he protects me.
Okay.
He's very
I just
protective of me, so.
If he shows back up, you can call, take care of
Well,
it.
that's what I'm saying. It's just a nightmare. I mean, I canceled the insurance policy since my husband passed, so there's no money if they kill me. And what are they going to do with JJ and Tyler? Like, what do people think?
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you have a problem, shows back up, feel free to call us. We'll come and run them off or something. Okay. All right. Okay, get out of here. Say goodbye.
Thank you.
See ya.
She got the worst case of diabetes I've ever seen. Now, after the welfare check, he had several concerns. As you heard, Lori was saying that her brother Adam was trying to kill her for her money and had been in the area, but they found no evidence he had. And also, there was no evidence Kay was trying to take JJ away from Lori. He also followed up with BYUI, found out Tylee had never applied and wasn't registered. He said that Melanie Gibb was in Utah that day and not Arizona. They also knew Lori and Chad were married November 5th, but she refers to him as Alex's friend and kind of plays dumb. He saw them holding hands, all that jazz. So they're in the know. Lori doesn't know it. He also worried about Lori and Alex's state of mind, and this is really creepy. There was a staircase to the right that went upstairs. He saw a shadow that was being reflected on the wall, and there was someone who kept moving back and forth at the top of the stairs, which obviously made him nervous because he did not know what intentions the person may have. And they hadn't seen Alex, even though Lori said he was there. They returned to the townhomes when they could not get Melanie Gibb on the phone. They played the body cam of that. I'm going to play that as well. It's really quick, but this was only 10 minutes after they left the first time.
All right, Lori, sorry to bother you again. Yeah, we're having get hold of your friend down there,
No.
Melanie.
Well, they were going to Frozen 2 today, so they may be after this.
Could you get a hold of her at some point and say, can you please call back the officer that's been trying to call you?
Okay, sure.
'Cause
Yeah, because I think they are at the movies right now.
okay,
I'll call her.
he's been trying to call her, or other officer. She's not answering.
Okay.
But if they're at the movie, that's
Probably at Frozen 2 right now,
yeah.
because that's one thing he wanted to do.
I'm frozen too.
Yeah. So
A whole winter here, that's probably why.
yeah. So if she'll just return his call, that'd be great. Okay. Thanks.
He said they couldn't verify JJ's location that day, and they knew Melanie Gibb didn't have him, so they get a search warrant for the 3 townhomes. Number 107, which was Alex's townhome, 174 is Melanie's, and 175 is Lori's. Melanie and Lori were next door neighbors. Obviously, they never saw JJ or Tylee that day, and that was it for testimony. We will see tomorrow how we end this really powerful week of testimony. Until then, hope you guys have a good rest of your evening. We'll see you soon.